If you're just starting your journey in Genshin Impact, one of the first major hurdles you're gonna face is building a team. The game has an absolutely huge roster of characters, but it doesn't do a great job of explaining how to combine them effectively. You might find that a team of your favorite characters can handle the early game content just fine, but as you face more difficult challenges like Spiral Abyss, weekly bosses, Imaginarium Theater, or even higher level domains, a well-structured team becomes more and more essential. Luckily, building a well-balanced team can be much simpler than you think. You don't need to have every 5-star character in the game or super high level characters to succeed. You just need to understand the fundamentals of team building and combat. In this video, I'm going to break down the core of team building in a few easy to follow tips. These will help you create super powerful teams no matter which characters you have. As well as we're going to talk about how to make them do more damage once you have your team assembled. Let's get right into it. Tip number 1, you need to understand the 3 main character roles. Every character in Genshin Impact can be broadly categorized as a main DPS, a sub DPS, or a support. Knowing the difference between these is the first step to building a well-balanced team. First is the main DPS. By the way, DPS stands for damage per second. Your main DPS is your primary damage dealer. This character will have the most on-field time, meaning they are the one you are actively playing as during combat the majority of the time. Their entire kit is designed to deal the highest sustained damage possible. Your teams will generally be built around your main DPS character. Next is sub DPS. These are the characters that provide additional damage from off-field. You'll typically switch to them, use their elemental skill or burst, and then immediately switch back to your main DPS. But their abilities will remain on the field, dealing damage and applying elements as your main character attacks. This goes along a lot with elemental reactions, which we'll talk about in a bit, so stick around. And finally, we have supports. Their job is pretty much their name, to support. They enable your main and sub DPS characters to perform better. The support role can be broken down even further into 3 main types. Healers, who restore HP, shielders, who create shields and absorb incoming damage and prevent interruption, and buffers, who increase your team's stats like attack or provide elemental damage bonuses. Any good team needs a mix of these 3 roles. For example, a team of 4 supports would be nearly impossible to defeat, but they would deal almost no damage during a 30-second fight into a 10-minute battle. And the opposite goes for a team of 4 main DPSs. You might have a team of 4 strong characters, but without any supports to shield or heal you, you're likely just gonna die pretty quickly. Balance is key. By the way, before we get to tip number 2, if you're looking for people to play Genshin with, feel free to join my Discord server, link in description. We're building a small little Genshin community, so I'd love for you to join. Now that you know the 3 main character types, tip number 2 is to know the 2 main team types. Since you know your character's roles, you can arrange them into 2 proven structures. Nearly every single successful team in the game falls into one of these 2 categories. The first and most common is the standard balanced team. This team consists of 1 main DPS, 1 sub DPS, and 2 supports. Sometimes that second support slot can be a second sub DPS for even more off-field damage. But it just depends on what characters you're using and what you're doing with that team. This structure is the most common and is very reliable for pretty much all of the game's content. The second one is more advanced, but the second team type is the hypercarry team. This structure is all about maximizing the damage of a single powerful character. A hypercarry team consists of 1 main DPS and 3 supports. All 3 supports are chosen specifically to buff the main DPS by providing healing, shielding, and damage bonuses to make that one character as powerful as humanly possible. And like I said, hypercarry is more advanced, so as a beginner, focusing on the standard balance team is your best bet, at least until you unlock and level a lot more characters. For tip number 3, you need to choose your anchor character. The best team is always one built around a character that you enjoy playing. Usually for this, you'll pick a main DPS character, but you can build a team around supports as well. You just have to identify your character's role. So my best advice is to start there. Start by picking one character that you like. They will be your anchor. Once you have your anchor, you need to figure out their role. You have 2 options for this. The first is the in-game method. Simply read their talent descriptions. I know nobody wants to read these, but to do so, go to the character screen, select talents, and read what their skill and burst do. Does it mention providing a shield or healing? They're a support. Does it create an effect that stays on the field after you switch them out? If so, they're likely a sub DPS. If their kit is focused on enhancing their own normal and charge attacks for an extended period, they're likely a main DPS. The second and easier option, if you don't want to read the in-game menus, is to look it up. Websites like the Genshin Fandom Wiki or even HoYoLab have detailed guides on every single character. These will explicitly state what the character does and how to use them. Now that you have your character, we're on to tip number 4, and that is to prioritize elemental reactions. This is arguably the most important tip on this entire list. Elemental reactions are the backbone of combat in Genshin Impact. If you ever feel like your characters aren't doing enough damage, it's almost certainly because your team isn't built to create powerful reactions. Take a look at this chart from Genshin's fandom page, and feel free to screenshot this. It shows very simply how to combine different elements to create a reaction that deals bonus damage. Some of the most powerful and early game accessible reactions for beginners are Vaporize, which is combining Pyro and Hydro, Melt, combining Pyro and Cryo, and Aggravate or Spread, combining Electro and Dendro. So take a look at your anchor character's element. Let's say, for example, as your anchor character you chose Kaya. He's a great free-to-play Cryo character that you get at the very beginning of the game. Looking at the chart, you see, for example, that Cryo reacts with Pyro to create Melt, which multiplies the damage of the attack. And let's say you want to do a Melt reaction. This means your next step is to find a Pyro character to pair with him. And this is the key to team building. Find a character that you like, and then find other characters whose elements react well with theirs. And next, for tip number 5, fill in the gaps to complete your team. You have your anchor character, you know their role, and you have your target elemental reaction. Now you just fill in the remaining slots based on the standard balance team that we discussed. Let's continue with our Kaya example. We've decided that he's our main DPS and we want to create a melt reaction. So to support our main DPS slot, which is Kaya, a Cryo character, we need a Pyro sub DPS to apply Pyro from off field. One of the best and most accessible options in the game is Zhongling. You can get her for free pretty early from the Spiral Abyss. Her elemental burst is one of the strongest Pyro sub DPS abilities in the game, and she would work perfectly to fill this role. Now you have Cryo and Pyro for your melt reaction. For support slot number 1, a buffer is always a great choice. The best and one of the most accessible in the game is Bennett, another Pyro character. His burst provides both a massive attack buff and strong healing, making him 2 roles in 1. He's available in the shop from time to time, and he's on banners, so you can pretty much guarantee getting him eventually if you find him. And finally, for support slot number 2, you have a bit of a choice. You could add a shielder like Noelle or Diona, who we'll go with for this example to prevent your characters from taking damage, or you could go with an animal character like Sucrose or Animo Traveler to group enemies and spread elements with Animo Swirl. Either way, you'll be good to go. And just like that, you've built a powerful, well-rounded team. Kaya, Zhongling, Bennett, and Diona. You have your main DPS, a sub DPS, and 2 supports who all work together to create Melt, one of the strongest elemental reactions in the game. And you can apply this exact logic to any character you choose to build around. Keep that chart handy to see all the different elemental reactions, or I'll be making a video on them all soon. Also, when in doubt, there is one group of 3 4-star characters that is so universally powerful that it has its own name in the community, the National Team. This team consists of Bennett, Zhongling, and Xingqiao. If you have these characters, you have the foundation for a top tier team. Hoyoverse even uses these characters in their character trials and showcases pretty often. With these characters, Bennett provides a massive attack buff and healing, Zhongling provides off-field pyro damage, and Xingqiao provides off-field hydro damage and application. Together, they constantly trigger vaporize reactions for huge damage. The best part about this team is that the 4th slot is completely flexible. You can put almost any main DPS character in that slot and the team will perform exceptionally well. Whether it's a 5-star or a 4-star DPS, this core of 3 characters will carry you through almost all of the game's content. If you have them, I highly suggest building these characters. And my final tip is a very simple one, and that is to just take your time. Genshin Impact is a marathon, not a sprint. You are not meant to have a fully maxed out perfect team overnight. The process of slowly gathering resources, leveling your characters, and seeing them get stronger is the journey of the game. That is the one thing you keep working towards as you keep growing your collection of characters. It's not something to rush. Also, don't feel pressured to pull for characters just because they're considered meta. The most important thing in the game is to have fun, and you'll have a lot more fun playing the game with a team of characters that you actually like. So explore the world, do the quests, and build your teams at your own pace. Following the tips in this video will give you a solid foundation to ensure that when you do invest your time and resources into characters that you like, you're doing it in a way that will pay off in the long run. Congrats, you now know how to build a great team. If this video helps, I'm working on a series of videos taking Genshin Impact players from complete noob to pro, so check out the next video here.